Welcome back to Lifelong Learners. Last week I talked about my experiences as a college student with autism. This week I want to talk about autism and epilepsy from my own lived experience. For more episodes of Lifelong Learners, you can go to Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcast. Make sure you go to YouTube and look up Lifelong Learners. Like, comment, and sharing my podcast helps me get my autism story out there. Also, make sure to subscribe to my channel at Lifelong Learners Podcast. Now, who's ready to hear about autism and epilepsy from my lived experience? Your host, Holly Tetreault. When I was younger, I lived my life as a happy-go-lucky child. Then one day while I was sitting in class, waiting for my teacher to start reading groups, I could feel myself starting to get sick, and from there, I don't remember what happened. From there, the next thing I know, I am in the hospital, and it was hard for me to understand what was going on. Then I had to go to all of these appointments because the doctors were concerned that I had epilepsy. One of the tests they had to do was an EEG, where they stick all of these electrodes on your head to record brain activity. The doctor also flashed a light in my face to try and trigger a seizure. Then I have to breathe deeply for however long they tell me to. It was hard for me to be pulled out of school so I could go to these appointments. Sometimes I didn't understand why Mom was taking me out of school, even though we talked about it ahead of time. While I was waiting to get diagnosed with autism, I found myself wanting to be alone. I never had any friends. School was stressful because the staff did not understand that I had epilepsy, and I needed to be as low stress as possible. Being out of school so much due to my health took its toll. There were days that I found it hard to focus in school because not only was I concerned that I would have another seizure, I had to make sure that my stress was under control and I was taking care of myself. There are times where I put myself before doing my homework. I've had to sacrifice so many things because I was scared to drive since I had epilepsy. I started learning how to drive the winter of 2019. I was waiting for the seizures to be under control so I could drive. I went through driving school, and with everyone's help, I passed my road test on June 30th, 2021. I also decided to get my driver's license so in case that I would continue having breakthrough seizures, that I wouldn't have to go through driving school again. One day, I do want my own car, but I want to focus on my education right now. Being in school and learning about autism and disability rights is going to help me become a better advocate for others like me. Being autistic as a young woman, I enjoy collecting stuffed animals, doing art, and learning about autism. Sometimes I don't know that I get so absorbed in one topic that I forget about the assignment we're doing in class. Some people did not understand why being stressed out a lot would trigger a seizure for me. I would find myself constantly explaining the same thing over and over. Also, I would find myself spending more time alone and needing time to unwind after a long day. As I am getting older, I make time to do school and do the things I want to do. I am trying to get back on track with my podcast. I want to make sure that I find time to do my podcast and do my summer classes. School is definitely one of my favorite things to do. I enjoy being in college and learning new things. Managing my seizure disorder and finding time to do what I enjoy can be hard. Sometimes I use a planner to keep track of appointments. I use my fidget toys when I get stressed out. I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for my mom taking me to all of my appointments and being my advocate. I can't thank the paramedics enough for helping me out and treating these seizures and getting me to the hospital in time. I would not be as independent as I am today if it weren't for all the faculty and staff at GCC. Being autistic and having epilepsy has been a challenge, but I choose to face it head on. I will live life to the fullest and continue speaking up about autism and disability rights. Growing up with autism and epilepsy hasn't been easy because I know that my older sister hates me now because Mom gave me a lot of attention when I was younger. Over the years, the hate that I have towards my sister has grown. When I was younger, my sister didn't care that I had epilepsy, and it was hard to grow up in a place where I was under constant stress. I had to mask who I was, even at home. There were times where I found it hard to come home from school because I knew my sister would find something wrong with me. I didn't ask for a life full of doctors, hospital stays, and medical appointments during my childhood, but I'm glad to still be here today. I'm in college learning about disability rights, autism, and becoming a better advocate for the autism community. Living with autism can be hard some days, but I use my fidget toys, stuffed animals, and my podcast to not only tell my story, but to get the facts out there. I am going to break the stigma for women and girls who have autism and are afraid to be their true selves. Music has been one of my coping skills, and I still use music to this very day. I listen to the same music over and over again. I was always told that I wasn't going to live on my own or do anything on my own because I have epilepsy. Now I can tell all of those people, look at me now, because I have people who love and accept me for who I am. Sometimes I wish people could understand why I'm sensitive to noise. I am doing my best to cope with each situation. I can't stress this enough. Being autistic doesn't make me any less human. Writing these podcasts helps me to get my lived experiences out there. Sharing my epilepsy journey has taken a lot of courage from me. Also, I share my stories to let others know that it's okay to be who you are. Even though I am autistic, I went back to school so I can continue learning about autism and keep up with the current research. I will have autism and epilepsy for the rest of my life, but that doesn't stop me from living life and doing what I enjoy. I will never stop learning because knowledge is power, and I feel more in control of my life the more educated I become. Each day, I am learning to accept myself for who I am. My journey with epilepsy is never ending, and sometimes it can be hard to manage, but I try my best each and every day. Next week, I want to talk about how I've been coping with change since my therapist retired. That's all for this week's episode of Lifelong Learners. This week, I talked about autism and epilepsy from my own lived experiences. Next week, I am going to talk about how I've been coping with change since Nancy, my therapist, retired. For more episodes of Lifelong Learners, you can go to Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcast. Also, go to YouTube and look up Lifelong Learners. Like, comment, and sharing my podcast helps me get my autism story out there. Don't forget to go to YouTube and subscribe to my channel at Lifelong Learners Podcast. See you next week. Holly Tetreault.